Right now on the National Weather Desk, cross-country storm, where millions of people are at risk today, and the damage possible tornadoes already left behind.
There's no ETA on when the power and when the water will be back up and running.
Tick, tick, boom. Will the mild winter mean an explosion for the tick population?
Ticks are very sensitive to climatic and weather conditions.
50 years later, a look back at a deadly and devastating tornado outbreak.
It's overwhelming when you see some of the photos, especially from above.
Eclipse weather, how this solar event can change the temperature and cloud cover.
When we lose the sun, we lose that cloud development.
And mangroves in danger. What can be done to save Florida's coastal gems?
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Mark Pena. Nearly 80 million people from Pennsylvania to Louisiana are under a severe weather alert today. The strongest threat is in Ohio and northern Kentucky, including Cincinnati and Louisville. This Storm Prediction Center has that region on a level 4 out of 5 risk, which is significant. And here's a look at the big picture. You can see the area with the highest risk right there in red. But the enhanced risk, a 3 out of 5, extends from Ohio to northern Alabama, including Nashville and Birmingham. Today's risk includes the possibility of long-track tornadoes this afternoon and evening, as well as damaging winds and hail. Yesterday, the storm system is believed to have spawned several tornadoes in Oklahoma. Mackenzie Richmond is in Barnsdall this morning with a look at the damage there.
Take a look at this damage. The door is now on the ground outside of the garage. The cabinets are outside of the garage. That garage door underneath now mangled and crushed to the ground. It's completely unusable. I mean, at this point, it's almost leveled, and we saw that the shed earlier, just an hour or so ago, that was completely leveled. The cinder blocks on the ground, everything, the glass, the windows were shattered. Now take a look over here behind me on this side. There's also another remains of a building what once stood. That is unclear exactly what that was, but as you can see behind us, those crews are hard at work now. The latest update we do have from the city of Barnsdall is that Barnsdall Public Schools have decided to cancel classes today because of the extensive damage, the lack of electricity and water in certain parts of the city.
This is what it sounded and looked like yesterday afternoon near Jefferson City, Missouri. There were also multiple tornado warnings on Monday, including several overnight. There are no reports of any significant damage. And a severe thunderstorm also produced hail in North Texas. This was taken in Denton last night, about 45 minutes north of Dallas. Just 2 weeks ago, another hailstorm hit these same communities. Many homeowners still haven't repaired their damage from the roofs. And then there was this pounding rain. This was captured in Morgan Mill, about 90 minutes west of Dallas. It was part of the several severe thunderstorm warnings the National Weather Service issued in Texas. When severe weather is in the forecast, there can be a lot of terms to keep up with. Meteorologist Dante Ricci takes a look at some tornado-related words and what to do in such an emergency.
A watch means you need to be prepared. It doesn't necessarily mean that a tornado is on the ground, but conditions are favorable for one to develop. When a warning is issued, that means the tornado has either been indicated by radar or spotted, observed on the ground. Take action and seek shelter. And in rare cases, when a destructive tornado has the potential to impact a large city, causing huge threats to life and property, that is a tornado emergency. The safest place to go during a tornado is in the basement of your home or building. If no basement is available, an interior room like a closet or bathroom will do. But stay away from windows. Grab a piece of furniture, a mattress, a pillow, or something to cover your head, and always evacuate mobile homes or vehicles as they can be lifted up off the ground in the violent winds of a tornado. As always, have a safe way to receive emergency weather alerts, enabling them on your mobile phone. And in case the power goes out, a NOAA weather radio is an excellent backup system.
Now, the calendar may say April, but in many parts of the nation, snow will be the story over the next few days. Up to a foot or more will fall today through Wednesday in Wisconsin. As the storm moves east, it will bring heavy, wet snow to northern New York and New England. Lake Placid could see up to 2 feet in addition to powerful winds. Parts of northern New England will also see more than a foot of snowfall starting tomorrow night. And that combination of heavy snow and wind means widespread power outages are very likely. That's why utility crews are now gearing up. A storm last week already weakened many trees, so experts believe that increases the chance they'll get knocked down by tomorrow's storm.
We're prepared for whatever Mother Nature brings, no matter what time of the year it is.
Hundreds out of the state's workers are now on standby, ready to get to work around the clock. Hundreds of thousands of people lost power during last week's storm alone. As the weather warms and more of us begin to wander outdoors, health officials have a warning. Be very careful of ticks, which can carry Lyme disease, which are on the rise. Michigan meteorologist Trevor Robideau reports the weather may be the reason behind the increase.
Ticks, or more specifically the black-legged tick, are very common in Michigan. These small, disease-carrying insects are on the rise early this year due to this warm winter.
Ticks are very sensitive to climatic and weather conditions. So what I'm seeing, both as a scientist and here in Michigan, is that ticks are already active, especially the black-legged tick or the deer tick that can transmit Lyme disease. That tick can be active anytime the weather is above freezing.
When it comes to tick-borne diseases, experts warn it often comes down to timing.
Lyme disease requires a tick to be attached for something like 2 to 3 days to be able to transmit Lyme disease from that infected tick to an infected person. The other tick-borne diseases, in the laboratory, we're seeing that transmission time being much shorter.
So as you enjoy the warming weather, take extra care to check yourself and your pets for ticks.
Regardless of how long you may have been outside, especially if you've been outside for hours, I'll tell people as soon as you come indoors, check yourself. So ticks they can be on any part of the body, but they really like living in they really like going to places that are hidden and out of sight, like behind ears, hairlines, armpits, belly buttons, behind knees.
And if you or your pet are ticked, remove them immediately.
You grab the tick as close to the skin as you can with a pair of tweezers and just pull straight up like you're pulling a hair.
Mangroves are a group of trees and shrubs that grow in coastal waters, and people living along Florida's Atlantic coast are noticing the deterioration of mangroves, and weather is likely one of the factors. Danny Travis shows us how the local community is combating the issue.
From under the water, these mangrove islands look vibrant and full of life, but from above, it's a whole different story.
There are 4 or 5 islands in particular that we'd like to try to save and restore.
But these mangrove islands are more than just aesthetically pleasing. Chris Robbins, a marine biologist and partner in this initiative, says they're also the backbone to the ecosystem.
They provide habitat for different species at varying levels, from birds, that occupy the sort of tops of the canopies, to the oysters and the macroalgae that inhabit the root zone, and to the fishes that hide from the various predators among the roots.
A marine engineering firm evaluated the mangrove islands and determined increased wave action is the reason for deterioration.
Primarily because of the boat action, but certainly storms and tidal action can erode the soils underneath the mangroves and have them deteriorate.
The long-term benefits of replenishing and restoring these mangrove islands, I think, will outweigh the sort of short-term trade-offs or costs associated with, slower boat speeds.
Now let's check to see the weather in cities across the country today. We begin in Nashville, where, as we mentioned earlier, the area is at risk for severe weather today. Strong winds, heavy rain, hail, and even tornadoes are possible. High temperature there is about 73 degrees. Next, we are in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, where skies are mostly cloudy, and the high there is going to be 82 degrees. Heading to the Mid-Atlantic with a look here from Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, where there is a steady rain today with highs in the low 50s. And finally, White Beak Lake, Minnesota, where there is rain and snow this morning, giving way to overcast skies in the afternoon with highs in the low 40s. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll look at how the upcoming eclipse could impact the weather. And we'll look back at one of the worst tornado outbreaks in U.S. history that happened 50 years ago this week.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. We have a big storm on the way in the Northeast in the coming days. I don't think we're going to see too many weather-related problems today. This is 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We are, however, starting to introduce some rain in New York, New Jersey, and through parts of southern New England. The main event with this next storm system should be Wednesday through Thursday. Notice some heavy rain off to the south, some heavy snow off to the north. There'll be some strong winds mixed in as well, with some heavy wet snow accumulating to maybe over a foot in spots in northern New England.
I'm meteorologist Jasmine Lomax with a look at the mid-Atlantic region. We'll start the day with rain and storms across the region as a warm front continues to lift north. There could be strong, even severe storms at times, and the rainy pattern is going to continue into the day on Wednesday. As the cold front approaches, again, there's the chance for strong, even severe storms. This afternoon, temperatures reach the 40s, ranging through the 80s. Then overnight, we're in a cool down, looking at lows in the 40s, 50s, and 60s.
I'm meteorologist Charlotte Carl. A warm day ahead of that frontal boundary moving through the area, timing that out hour by hour. Midday pushing through Mississippi, heading into Alabama. South Alabama overnight into Wednesday morning, hitting Georgia, Atlanta as well. Then this line continues to strengthen as it pushes to the southeast. So there is a level 3 out of 5 for severe weather today across the southeast, especially northern Alabama, Nashville, Tennessee, and most of the southeast as well.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Dazzling dawns from east to west, from the breathtaking start of day in Rhode Island to the brilliant red morning sky in Washington state. Easter in Lynchburg brought pelts of hail, and Monday over Salt Lake City showed persistent overcast skies. The photographer calls these angry clouds.
Listen to Off the Radar, new episodes every Tuesday.
Welcome back. 50 years ago this week, one of the largest and most violent tornado outbreaks in U.S. history devastated communities in 13 states. 148 tornadoes were recorded on April 2nd and April 3rd, 1974. One of the most powerful was an F5 that tore through the small town of Xenia, Ohio. Emily Gracie spoke to Adam Oro from our station in Dayton about the event that killed 32 people and changed tornado science forever.
The Xenia tornado of 1974, I think, looms especially large in our area because of just the sheer magnitude of that event. You know, this was an F5 tornado, originally classified as an F6 before Dr. Ted Fujita of the University of Chicago pulled back on that, thinking it was inconceivable. It was an event that, in a town of 25,000, destroyed half the city. 32 people were killed, 1,000 injured.
Take me through that day and what happened.
There was an idea back then that this was going to be obviously a big event. And as it came from the south up through the north, you started to get those reports of the tornadoes coming through. But a lot of people in that community were living in homes that didn't have basements. They didn't have really the idea that we have now about finding our safe spots. So a lot of them were just kind of flying by the seat of their pants, so to speak, and trying to find somewhere safe to keep their families.
Can you tell me what the post-storm pictures looked like?
It's devastation. I feel like I use that word so much, but it is just sheer devastation. I mean, when you have an F5 tornado, the wind speeds are 250 plus. This was before the EF scale, so this was just the F scale. For a lot of these houses, they were on concrete slabs, no basements. So the entire house is gone, and all that's left is a slab or maybe a wall, maybe a couple of beams. it's overwhelming when you see some of the photos, especially from above. We talked to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, did some reconnaissance work where they flew above it and took aerial photos, and we got permission to use some of those. And you just look at them, and it's just it blows you away.
Now, to go more in depth on the tornadoes, including stories from survivors, check out this week's episode of our podcast, Off the Radar. You'll also hear from scientists about why this particular tornado changed our understanding of how tornadoes cause extreme damage. You can always check out Adam's documentary, The Day the Clock Stopped. We've pinned it to the top of our YouTube page. Just search the National Weather Desk. We are now just 6 days away from the next week's total solar eclipse. One of the big questions everyone wants answered is, will the weather cooperate? This is the latest cloud cover forecast from the American model known as the GFS. As you can see, clouds could still be an issue across many parts of the path of totality. Remember, this forecast will change several times between now and Monday. But even if there are clouds on eclipse day, the eclipse could actually help them dissipate. It could also send temperatures plummeting. Meteorologist Christian Bridges looks at the impact the eclipse has on our weather.
It can impact temperatures, cloud cover, wind speeds, and even precipitation. Cloud cover can be impacted because without the sunlight, there's no rising air off the warm ground. The ground cools, and of course we need rising motion for cloud development. So when we lose the sun, we lose that cloud development. So clouds can actually dissipate. Temperatures also drop up to 10 degrees, same exact concept as the sun setting, and we lose that heating. Of course, the temperatures can drop and winds can also lighten. As we head towards a nighttime-like state, the atmosphere becomes less mixed between all the different layers, so the winds die down a bit. Let's talk about cloud cover. We've got a great example of this cloud dissipation due to the eclipse from the total eclipse back in 2017, specifically focus on the state of Tennessee. Notice all the little puffy clouds across the state just before the eclipse. Here's what Tennessee looked like during the total eclipse. Notice how dark it is. It looks like a nighttime satellite imagery, of course, because we were in totality. Now, just after the eclipse leaves, notice almost clear of clouds, or mostly clear of clouds. The clouds have mostly dissipated just after the eclipse, but we give it a few hours, things start to warm back up, and there we go. We see those clouds developing once again. So again, the solar eclipse can absolutely impact our cloud cover and actually make for even better viewing conditions, as it can help to dissipate some of those clouds. In terms of temperatures, again, it can drop temperatures up to 10 degrees. Here's another great example of that back in that 2017 eclipse in Kentucky. Temperatures dropped from the low 90s or mid 90s all the way down into the mid to upper 80s.
And if you haven't gotten a hold of official eclipse viewing glasses, you may be wondering if you'll get to enjoy the big event on April 8th. Well, here are some of the ways to see the eclipse in motion, even if you lack the right pair of shades. Katie Morgan says she's got you.
All done with a few props from around the house or good old-fashioned Mother Nature.
Wow!
A colander with tiny holes will do the trick just fine. Be sure to position the colander in the sunlight so it can shine through the holes. A piece of cardboard and a pencil will also work. Just create a small hole anywhere on the paper. Just like the colander, you'll see the shadow show up on a white surface. Or find a tree nearby. Shadows cast by the leaves will put on a show.
Excellent!
So there you go, ways to watch the eclipse without glasses. Happy viewing!
And stay with the National Weather Desk as we count down the days until the April 8th eclipse. We'll have 3 hours of live coverage as we track the eclipse from Texas to Maine on Monday, April 8th. We also have an entire playlist dedicated to the eclipse on our YouTube channel. Just search the National Weather Desk and be sure to subscribe. Did you know eating oysters in Maryland, Washington, D.C., and Virginia areas could be helping the environment? Meteorologist Amy Aronson explains.
Next time you slurp down an oyster and recycle it, you're actually giving back to the environment and the Chesapeake Bay. Here's why.
They filter water, and they also create habitat for the other species that we Marylanders love to eat, like blue crabs and rockfish. We recycle shells. We go weekly. We have a crew of very strong men who pick up oyster shells, bring them back to our processing facility in Cambridge, Maryland, where they sit outside for a year, let the sun and the rain do all of its work to get rid of all that organic material. And then we actually partner with scientists at the University of Maryland who breed oysters. And the shell and the oyster larva come together on a setting pier and sit for about 2 weeks till the little larvae connect to the shell. Then they're called spat on shell. And then we load them onto a boat and we take them out into the Chesapeake Bay and we plant them where the Department of Natural Resources tells us to.
The Oyster Recovery Partnership has put 11.5 billion oysters back in the bay. In Annapolis, Maryland, I'm Amy Aronson.
And as we go to break, views of lower falls along the Genesee River in Rochester, New York.
Good morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Sarah Converse. The threat for severe weather looms over places like Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, and Illinois, where we're looking at very large hail, destructive winds, and multiple tornadoes. Temperatures will be in the 70s for the Ohio River Valley, where we're looking at that high risk for severe weather. But notice that on the back half of that low, we are going to see cooler air move in and the potential for some snow in the upper Midwest.
Good morning to you, meteorologist Chris Succi. We'll look at your forecast across the region today. We're going to be clearing out, lots of sunshine, gusty winds behind our cold front. The storms are moving east of the region. And you see the temperatures will be delightful during your Tuesday and then pretty cool in the morning Wednesday, 30s, 40s, and 50s all the way down to the Gulf Coast. Lots of sunshine Wednesday, less wind, low humidity, absolutely beautiful day. Highs 60s, 70s to near 80 Wednesday.
Well, hi there, everybody. Hope you're having a great Tuesday. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Out west, we're continuing to warm up, as we should this time of year. Highs anywhere from the upper 40s around Jackson Hole on up into the 70s. Sounds fantastic in the Valley of the Sun in Phoenix, but also back in Portland, Oregon today. Weather-wise, we've had high pressure ruling things over the Four Corners region. That will continue to slip inland, making room for this disturbance to push into Seattle later tonight. And that's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
As severe storms move across the country, it's important for everyone to be aware of the life-threatening dangers changing weather conditions can bring. That's especially true when it comes to flooding. Meteorologist Garrett Haid has information to help you be ready.
It's good to know the difference between what a flood warning and a flash flood warning is. Those flood warnings, those are issued as rivers rise into their flood stages where you'll want to heed those evacuation orders, whereas flash flood warnings typically occur when heavy rainfalls are ongoing, leading to water levels to rapidly rise. But regardless of warnings, first and foremost, turn around, do not drown. It does not take much water to become a life-threatening event for you. 6 inches of moving water can certainly be enough to move you, and upwards of 12 to 18 inches can be enough water to move entire vehicles away. And with those fast-moving floodwaters, it's always difficult to gauge just how deep that water is. And lastly, the safest places to be during a flooding event is indoors. But if that isn't always available, do seek shelter at higher ground.
We'd love to share your weather content on air. You can find us on all your social media platforms. Just search the National Weather Desk. We'll be right back. Thanks a lot for joining us. I'm meteorologist Mark Pena. Make it a great day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.